In 2025, airport boarding still feels like orchestrated chaos. 30 minutes of standing, shuffling, and bin battles that test everyone's patience. Airlines promise faster strategies, but many travelers wonder, why does boarding take so long and how to beat it remains such an unsolved mystery when shaving even 3 minutes could save the industry $250 million a year? The answer isn't just about who boards first. It's a hidden mix of decades-old routines, overlooked bottlenecks, and a surprising incentive to let frustration linger. So what's really sabotaging the process? And how can you beat it on your next flight? Back-to-front boarding sounds logical. Start with the last rows, work forward, and everyone should file in smoothly, right? That's the method most travelers picture when they think of orderly boarding. But in practice, it's the slowest major system on the books. The reason? Aisle interference. As soon as one person stops to load a bag or settle in, everyone behind them waits. Multiply that by 150 passengers, and the whole process grinds down to a crawl. Random boarding, surprisingly, often outpaces back to front. There's no sequence, just a free-for-all. Passengers naturally spread out, filling empty rows and overhead bins more evenly. It looks chaotic, but in tests, random boarding can shave several minutes off compared to the orderly approach. The lack of structure isn't popular with frequent flyers, but the numbers don't lie. Sometimes chaos beats carefully planned order. Then there's WilMA, short for window, middle, aisle. This method boards window seats first, then middles, then aisles, working from the back and front at the same time. The idea is to keep people from climbing over each other or blocking the aisle while stowing bags. WilMA shows moderate speed gains in the real world, especially when flights aren't packed with families or groups. United Airlines has used a version of WilMA for years, and in their own tests, it consistently shaved 2 to 3 minutes off the average boarding time compared to back to front. But WilMA isn't perfect. Families, buddy groups, and loyalty pre-boards all throw wrenches into the system. The more exceptions, the less efficient the theory becomes. Each of these methods has its champions and detractors. Airlines have run countless simulations and even real-world trials, some with animated seat maps and stick-figure passengers marching in perfect order. On paper, the differences are clear. In reality, human behavior, carry-on bags, and the simple urge to stand up as soon as someone else does can undo the best-laid plans. That's why the next step isn't just about picking the right sequence. It's about understanding why these systems break down when faced with actual travelers and their bags. Loyalty programs and boarding perks have turned airline gates into status Olympics. Nearly every major U.S. carrier now divides boarding into a dizzying number of groups, sometimes 7, 8, even 10 zones, each with its own privileges. First up are the big spenders, top-tier frequent flyers, credit card holders, and anyone who shelled out for a premium seat or a priority add-on. These aren't just nice-to-haves. Priority boarding is a billion-dollar business. American, Delta, and United each rake in between $700 million and $1.2 billion a year from selling early boarding, preferred seats, and bundled perks, enough to buy a few hundred new jet bridges if they wanted. The math is simple. The more groups, the more chances to upsell. Want to board before the bins fill? That'll be $30. Need to sit with your family? There's a fee for that too, unless you have the right credit card or elite status. Even basic economy, the cheapest fare, is designed to nudge travelers into paying to avoid being last in line. Airlines have found that the fear of running out of overhead bin space is a powerful motivator. So powerful that it can outweigh the frustration of waiting through endless group announcements. Open seating flips the script. Southwest, the only big U.S. airline without assigned seats, calls groups by check-in order. No seat assignments, just a mad dash for the best spot once your group is called. It's fast, but not always friendly. Regulars know to check in exactly 24 hours before departure, or pay extra for early bird check-in to snag a better spot. The system is simple, but the trade-off is clear. Less status, more anxiety at the gate, and a line that forms long before boarding even starts. For legacy carriers, the complicated boarding dance isn't about speed. It's about selling the feeling of special treatment. Priority zones and loyalty tiers keep high-value customers happy and keep the cash flowing, even if it means the rest of the plane waits a little longer. Airlines could streamline the process, but that would mean giving up a steady stream of ancillary revenue. So for now, the boarding line is as much about business as it is about getting on the plane. Most boarding delays don't start with the ticket scanner. They happen in the narrowest part of the plane. Once passengers step onto the jet bridge, the race for overhead bin space begins. Every traveler with a roller bag is hunting for a spot, and there's only so much room to go around. On a standard single-aisle jet, each overhead bin is designed to fit about 6 carry-ons, assuming everyone loads their bag wheels first, just like the diagram. But that's rarely what happens. Bags get wedged sideways, coats tossed on top, and suddenly a bin meant for 6 holds 3. When one passenger stops to rearrange, everyone behind is forced to wait. This is what crew call aisle interference, the main reason even the best boarding plan can fall apart. The numbers are revealing. Stowing a correctly packed carry-on takes 5 to 8 seconds. That's if the bag fits and the passenger knows what they're doing. If a bag is oversized, or someone tries to force it into a half-full bin, the process can double to 15 seconds or more. Multiply that by dozens of passengers, and small delays ripple through the entire cabin. Gate agents and flight attendants see it every day. One person struggling with a stuck zipper can stall a dozen people behind them. When bins fill up, the problem gets worse. Passengers now have to backtrack, searching for open space, clogging the aisle in both directions. On full flights, up to a third of carry-ons end up gate-checked at the last minute. Each one adds up to a minute of extra boarding time as bags are tagged and rolled away. The jet bridge itself is another choke point. Passengers bunch up just outside the aircraft door, waiting for the line to inch forward. If a family with 3 bags and a stroller boards, the entire flow can freeze. Single-aisle aircraft, like the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320, are especially prone to these jams because there's only one way in and out. Wide-body jets with 2 aisles or dual boarding doors handle the crush better, but most US flights don't have that luxury. The physical limits of the cabin, plus the scramble for bin space, explain why even a perfectly sequenced boarding group can grind to a halt. Crew often joke that the fastest way to board would be to hand out Tetris trophies for perfect bag stacking. Until then, every second lost in the aisle is a second the whole plane waits. Gate crowding is less a quirk than a ritual, repeated at airports everywhere. The moment a gate agent rises or a boarding group flashes on the screen, a wave of movement sweeps the area. Bags are grabbed, seats abandoned, and within seconds a dense cluster forms around the boarding lanes, regardless of whose group is actually called. Airline staff call it gate lice, a term born from the inevitability of the scene. Delta's internal research shows that 30 to 50% of passengers begin clustering near the gate before their group is invited. MIT's transport studies confirm the cost. Early crowding adds 4 to 10 minutes to boarding, erasing any advantage from optimized boarding orders. The route is simple. Nobody wants to be last to the bins. Overhead space is precious, and the sight of others standing triggers a chain reaction. Herding takes over. As one Atlanta gate agent put it, the minute people stand, everyone else follows, no matter what I say. Announcements and digital signs rarely break the pattern. Even seasoned travelers who might sigh at the chaos admit to joining the crush if the flight is full or their bag is bulky. Family pre-boards and special needs passengers add another layer. Pre-boarding for strollers and wheelchairs is both required and practical, but it means more people and more gear waiting near the gate. Last-minute upgrades, standby flyers, and seat changes inject more unpredictability. By the time Zone 3 is called, the area resembles a concert crowd, everyone inching forward, hoping to slip in ahead. Agents try to keep order, but union rules and customer service limits prevent them from physically stopping line jumpers unless things escalate. Compliance fatigue sets in quickly. After several announcements, even attentive travelers start to tune out. The PA calls Group 4, but a third of Group 5 is already at the scanner, ready to board. Behavioral research shows herding and impatience are contagious. When a few break ranks, the rest follow. On crowded flights or family-heavy routes, early clustering can spike to 60%. The result? More blockages at the gate, jams on the jet bridge, and a boarding process that rarely matches the airline's plan. Some airlines have tried fixes, marked lanes, digital reminders, even staff forming human barriers. Delta's trials saw compliance jump by 10 to 20% and boarding times drop by up to 4 minutes. But the effect faded when staff relaxed. The psychology of the gate crowd remains stubborn. Until someone solves for human nature or the fear of missing bin space, boarding stays a contest of nerves. Jason Steffen isn't your average airline critic. He's an astrophysicist, the kind of person who looks at a boarding line and sees a math problem waiting to be solved. After one too many slow crawls onto a crowded jet, Steffen built a computer model to find the fastest possible way to fill a plane. His solution: board window seats in every other row first, then circle back for the rest, saving the middles and aisles for last. In simulations, this so-called Steffen method cut boarding time by as much as half compared to the usual back-to-front shuffle. It's the boarding equivalent of solving a Rubik's Cube in seconds, on paper at least. But the real world doesn't run on algorithms. When airlines have tried to bring these lab-born solutions to life, things get messy fast. United Airlines put a version of the Steffen method, called the reverse pyramid, to the test at Chicago O'Hare. The idea was to send passengers down the aisle in a staggered order, minimizing traffic jams and bin battles. In theory, United's own simulations promised 20 to 30% faster boarding. In practice, the experiment shaved off about 2 minutes per flight. Not nothing, but far from revolutionary. What happened? Passengers balked at the unfamiliar sequence. Families wanted to stay together. Loyalty perks meant elite flyers still boarded out of turn. Confusion at the gate led to group calls being ignored, and the carefully crafted order unraveled as soon as the first stroller rolled up. Crew feedback wasn't glowing either. The trial ended quietly, with United reverting to a more traditional system. Steffen himself has admitted that while his method works in a world of perfect compliance, real travelers are anything but predictable. Airlines, he says, have to optimize for more than just speed. They have to keep customers, and the bottom line, happy. Dual-door boarding sounds like a no-brainer. Let people use both the front and rear doors, and the whole process speeds up dramatically. At least, that's the promise. Low-cost airlines in Europe, like Ryanair and EasyJet, do it every day with buses and air stares. Their planes empty and refill in half the time. But in the US, dual-door boarding is almost mythical. Most airports are built around a single jet bridge per gate. Gate, and the rear door usually opens onto a busy ramp or a wall of fuel trucks. Even when the infrastructure is there, safety protocols and union contracts add more layers. U.S. ground crews need extra staff to monitor both doors, and union agreements often require specific training or restrict who can operate air stairs. The result? Rear door boarding is rare outside of remote stands or small regional airports. Revenue is another obstacle. One airlines are happy to talk about in investor calls, if not at the gate. Priority boarding, bundled with premium seats or sold as a standalone perk, brings in hundreds of millions each year for the major carriers. Delta, United, and American each report between $700 million and $1.2 billion annually from early boarding, preferred seats, and other perks. Money that's hard to walk away from for the sake of a slightly faster process. As one operations manager put it, we could board faster, but then we'd have to find $100 million somewhere else. The system isn't just about moving people quickly, it's about keeping the most profitable passengers happy and the cash flowing. Even if a faster method exists, giving up those lucrative add-ons is a tough sell. And every tweak to boarding flow, like adding a second door, runs straight into a wall of airport design, labor rules, and the bottom line. For now, the slow march down a single aisle is less a design flaw and more a business decision reinforced by contracts and cash registers. Picking the right seat can make or break your boarding experience. If you're flying an airline that uses WilMA, window seats almost always get called before middles and aisles. That's your ticket to early bin access. And a little extra time to settle in. Packing a small bag that fits under the seat speeds things up too. You'll breeze past the overhead bin drama and avoid the last-minute gate check shuffle. Timing matters. Don't crowd the gate, but don't wait for the final call either. Standing up only when your group is announced helps keep the flow moving for everyone. Shaving just 3 minutes off every boarding process isn't just a win for your patients. It's a windfall for the industry. Boeing's own analysis puts the savings at up to $250 million a year across the mainline U.S. fleet. That's money airlines can use for new planes, better tech, or just keeping fares in check. Those few minutes, multiplied by thousands of flights every day, add up fast. The next time boarding feels like a slow-motion parade, remember, every second you save helps keep the whole system running a little smoother and a lot cheaper. 3 minutes, according to Boeing, that's the industry-wide average time airlines could save per flight with better boarding, translating to $250 million in annual U.S. savings. Our journey traced how boarding evolved from handwritten lists to algorithm-driven seat maps, only to be slowed by real-world bottlenecks, cramped aisles, overhead bin battles, and the persistent crowding known as gate lice. While studies like Jason Steffen's proved that smarter seat order could cut boarding time in half, airlines weigh those seconds against millions in priority boarding revenue and infrastructure limits. Despite decades of tests, no system has delivered both speed and profit. Exact impacts of future technology or when airlines might prioritize efficiency over perks remain open questions, but one fact holds: every minute at the gate adds up, costing money, patience, and on-time arrivals. Boarding may never be perfect, but as long as travelers and airlines adapt, the line can move faster, one informed choice at a time.